So the first bonus tip I have for you is getting up with the sunrises. When you get up in the morning and you get exposed to the low solar angles between the hours of when the sun is first rising to just a few hours after the sun is coming up, it's going to signal to your brain when to time the time when you're going to start feeling sleepy in the evening. And usually that's about 12 to 16 hours from receiving that signal. So by getting up at sunrise or around the time the sun is coming up and getting that exposure between 2 to 10 minutes, it's going to help you start naturally feeling sleepy later on. And I've tried this. Again, I'm not going to share things with you that I haven't tested for myself. I started doing this because I had struggled with feeling sleepy before I go to bed. Yeah, I do all the other tips. I'd exercise, try to make sure I have consistent wake times, having a routine, things like that. And I still found myself having difficulties falling asleep. The one thing that really was a game changer for me was going out, sitting out in the back during the sunrise and getting at least 10 to 20, or sorry, 2 to 10 minutes of direct sunlight. So it's not you looking directly at the sun, it's just being out during that direct light exposure. It doesn't matter if it's cloudy and there's coverage, just as long as you're out getting exposure to that natural daylight during the sunrise, that's really going to help. If you can't get outside, let's say the first thing you do is you hit the road and you start driving to work, you can still get that exposure, through the window. So if you're getting that direct sunlight through the window, you'll still be able to get that signal. It may take a little bit longer, but the fact is that you're still out and about during the sunrise, and that's really going to help you start to feel sleepy naturally in the evening. To go along with that tip, also getting out and getting daylight during the sunset. And so those transitioning hours from the sun being up at its highest to now we're transitioning to the evening where there's no light, it starts to reinforce that signal from the waking hours for your body to now we're transitioning to the restful, eventually the sleep part of the day for your body. So that's really helpful. And to also reinforce that, take a look at all the lights around your house. So I have these lamps right here and I'm able to dim them. So usually after the sun sets, we're taking it from 100% all the way down to as low as 10%, just so we're reducing the light exposure. Again, earlier we talked about blue light exposure, and I'm also mentioning like the white light exposure. Those light exposure, you want to reduce that as you transition to the evening to help not confuse your body with thinking that you're in a wakeful period. So that's tip number 1A and 1B is moving with the sunrise and sunset. And one other bonus tip. So if you're having trouble getting out of bed and feeling like you're ready to tackle the day, one thing you can do if you have these programmable lights is set a timer to them to where the lights come on just before your alarm clock. This is super helpful. I've used this and I've noticed that I get this kind of like burst of energy when I wake up in the morning. So it's an overhead light. I'm laying down in my bed, and this is, a nightstand with the lamp on it, and that lamp goes off about 15 minutes before my alarm, and I've noticed significant improvements and just feeling like okay, like I'm ready to get the day going. Whereas before I learned about this tip, sometimes you wake up, your alarm goes off, and you're kind of like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, and it's the you're tapping the snooze button, and next thing you know, it's like, well, I can't hit the snooze button anymore. So we've all been there, and this is one tip. Having the overhead light that's programmed to go off at a certain time before your alarm will really help you. I also had one of my clients share that they tried this and that did help them. If you don't have the lamp, if you have your bed that's near a window, and the windows in the direction of the sunrise, utilize that, because that natural light that's coming in, it's going to work the same way. And then from there, getting out in the back on the front porch and being in direct sunlight, that's really going to help. So those are the first two bonus tips for improving your sleep. One other thing about different lights in the evening is that candlelight is okay. So the candlelight will not signal to your brain that it's daytime and you need to be in like this wakeful state. So candlelight is okay. Um, for those of you that have like the notifications and the watches and the notifications on your watch or your cell phone or tablet, just make sure that you have those away from your sleeping area. That's not a disruption, because even the light that comes from the cell phone or from the TV or from your watch or tablet, that can even wake you up at night. It's the same principle. So just be mindful of those lights that you're exposed to. Okay, so my next bonus tip has to do with your body temperature. Earlier we talked about the room temperature for when you're sleeping, but you can also kind of hack this body temperature tip to help you fall asleep and get into that sleepful state a little bit sooner. And that has to do with decreasing your body temperature. So if you like to take showers before you go to bed to help you feel relaxed, definitely do that to help bring your body temperature down as you transition to going to bed. Reducing your body temperature is going to help you get into that sleepful state a lot sooner. The last bonus tip I have for you has to do with the timing of your last meal before going to bed. So you've all experienced the itis before. I like to refer to that as eating a large meal and then feeling sleepy, sort of like sluggish afterwards. You can utilize that effect to help you fall asleep. And so, make sure the timing of your meal is within maybe say like a 3 hour window of like winding down for sleep. That's my rule of thumb. That's what I've kind of experimented with. Usually when I wait a little bit too long, I end up feeling hungry again. For some reason, I'm not sure like how my metabolism works, but for me, if I stay up too long, or if I have my dinner, my last meal like too early before going to bed, I end up feeling hungry before bed again. So I kind of time it to where um, it's within that time period, so I can kind of transition to sleep and go into sleep land, go into dream world. So those were my sleeping tips to help you improve your sleeping quality, your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep longer. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video course, and I hope you take your sleep score within my program from a 1 to a 3 up to a 4 to a 5. Again, those that I've worked with, I've seen them improve their sleep pretty rapidly within about 2 to 4 weeks of using a few of these tips that I share with you. And the last tips at the end, the bonus tips, those are new tips that I've kind of been researching and using on myself to see how they work, and also sharing with my clients as I come across that information. So hopefully that helps. In a future video, we'll cover more nutrition slash supplements. I didn't include that in this video on purpose because I wanted you to focus on the natural biological things that you can do within your daily routine that can help improve your sleep before talking about the supplements. You know me, I don't push supplements as a solution right off the bat. I feel that there's things that you can do naturally on your own, and I've seen it, so I have the proof that it does work. So before we're adding in other supplements, and I know you're probably thinking of a few, I'm not even going to say them, but before you start to introduce things like that, try these tips first. And then after that, maybe you've seen some progress, maybe you didn't, we can kind of explore those other avenues in more of a one-on-one personal basis. And so leave me some feedback as far as like what you thought about this course, what you thought about the information. Lastly, I want you to pick 1 to 2 tips that you're going to try to improve your sleep. So let me know which 2 tips that you tried or are going to try in the Facebook group. And once you use them, report back to the group. Say, hey, I listened to Kayla's video on sleep improvement tips. These are the tips that I tried, and here's what worked. And I'm very confident that when you stick to these tips, you're going to improve your sleep. So report back to others, let them know the success that you had. That's the end of the Empowerment Essentials Sleep Improvement Tips video. This is Caleb signing off. Remember, it's more than nutrition, it's nourishment for your mind, body, and spirit.